In almost 2 decades, I wrote so many different songs in so many different genres. House, dub techno, liquid drum and bass, neurofunk drum and bass, orchestra, and so much more. However, I want to underline that I understand that despite all this experience, there are a lot of things that I don't know. And even when I am 100% sure that I know the truth, it is always better to do a small reality check. It will never hurt. But let me tell you what happened recently. I got into a heated argument on Facebook about the following subject. What sounds better, MP3 or lossless? A guy on the internet actually offered me to put 5,000 euros on bet that he would be able to successfully complete the A to B test and hear the difference between MP3 and WAV. Well, he also insulted me quite a few times to prove his point. I think it would not be smart to insult someone back just because they might be passionately defending a specific position in a heated argument. Even if you're a graduate from an SAE university in Amsterdam.
What?
Yes, that's right. A graduate from the university in Netherlands specializing in audio and film production is claiming that his ears are trained enough to hear the difference. Well, let's do some basic testing and figure out the truth.
Does this difference even exist? If it does, is it purely mathematical, or can you actually hear it? Or is it just our imagination playing with us, like it is most times when you have your equalizer turned off and you keep playing with it and you think that you feel the difference, but there isn't any? Let's find out.
I'm going to render a clip of full-blown white noise in different formats. MP3 320, FLAC 16-bit, zero compression, WAV 16-bit, and WAV 24-bit. We will allocate all these different white noise samples, though rendered at the exact same time, to different tracks on our playlist. To stir things up even further, I'm going to render a low-quality MP3 file to compare with all these above and see how it does. You can see that white noise here is going to have exactly the same true peaks, exactly the same loudness. RMS is going to take a long time to determine, it doesn't matter. Don't look at it, it takes a long time to calibrate. It's going to be changing, it's going to be going closer to zero regardless which sound I'm actually turning on. Now I'm testing WAV, the WAV file. It keeps going lower, the true peaks are changing a little bit. But the picture is exactly the same. The loudness is exactly the same. We go to white noise MP3. It's still exactly the same. So you can see that there is no difference in there. And we're going to check WAV 284-bit. Let's put a 24-bit WAV versus MP3, for example. Switching them A to B. I mean, last but not the least, let's put 128 kilobits. There you go. You can see the difference right away. So this is what people talk about when they say that sound lacks high frequencies. They sound muffled. They sound weird. This is exactly why. You can see that there is a wall. Anything after 16,000 hertz, 16.8 thousand hertz is just dead. There are no frequencies there. So this format, 128 kilobits, it cannot give us a good picture, but everything else looks exactly the same. I mean, okay, so what I managed to pick up from looking at 128 kilobits versus 16-bit WAV, probably the difference should be in the high range, okay? Cool. So let's close it up as much as we can. Maybe there is a... Is there like a way to close it up even more? I think not, but let's look at the high frequencies. Here we go. FLAC, the same. So say minus 31 is the peak back to WAV 16-bit. Exactly the same. Going to WAV 24-bit and going to 320 kilobits MP3. And I mean, let me double check again. Okay, so there is actually difference, but I don't know if you could see that. I don't know if you picked it up. So here's where the difference is. It's in the ultra high-end spectrum, okay? So this is above 20,000 hertz. You can see there is a small... It is kind of similar to what I told you before was the case with 128 kilobits. After like 20,000 hertz or closer to 20,000 hertz, there is a small percentage of muffle. You can see
It's actually a little bit more than, it's like 20.5 thousand hertz. So it's like almost 20, it's like 20.7 kilohertz. But can you actually hear that? And let's listen to MP3 320. So let's, I can't hear anything. And now try this. Somewhere approximately 20 after 20,000 hertz, right? You can see that there is a difference here. But here's the problem. It is that the maximum hearing range that you'll ever get to have is 20,000 hertz or 20 kilohertz. And that is mostly, you know, the babies are mostly known for that. As you mature, you lose the high frequency sensitivity. So, you know, depending on different sources that you're reading, the upper limit of high frequency responsiveness in the average adult is often closer to 15 to 17 or even 14,000 hertz. So let me check myself and see how far can I actually hear the noise. 20,000 hertz. You see that I put my headphones to the test. I made the sound extremely loud and I don't hear it. I just don't hear it. So I say somewhere around 17,000 hertz, 70.5. I cannot pick up sound anymore. I mean, what are the odds that people can actually, not only can they hear above 20,000 hertz, right? Because that's where the problem, so-called problem of the MP3 file is located, right? I honestly, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying this. I think that this is fake news, that people can hear difference here. Like, it's pretty much impossible. All right, so this is our last test of the day. Let's see how different noises actually look here compared with each other, which is ozone match EQ, which is something, it's like a cool tool if you want your sound to sound like someone else's, for example. Like you want to finalize your mix down, you want it to sound more like a specific artist, you can copy and paste his overall EQing and match it with your track. Or you can do that on the individual sounds level as well. So it's basically capturing the snapshot. So we can, you know, take these out of the way. They're probably going to be no difference, but I'm going to look at this anyway. So this is our FLAC sound. This is how it looks. We're going to use FLAC for the reference for the rest of this test. We're going to snapshot it. So the orange line is the reference. This is how it is looking. And now let's compare it versus a normal 16-bit WAV file capture. Let's go. Okay, so there will be some changes because the low-end responsiveness is kind of, you know, random. The sounds may sound a little, you know, it depends also from which second you started playing the sound and stuff like that. So it might be just a little bit different, but it's actually pretty close. You can see that it's pretty much the same sound. So WAV and FLAC sound almost identical. Now I'm gonna test a WAV 24-bit. I'm gonna click capture. It's not moving anymore, so we're gonna take a snapshot there. Boom. And it's pretty much the same. So you can see that FLAC and WAV look exactly the same. There is some inaudible difference here, which can be caused, once again, as I said, by the from where I started playing the sample. You know, the first impulse, it can kind of fuck up the measurement. And now let's take a look at MP3 128 kilobits. And we already know what we are supposed to see. There's probably going to be like this little lack of high end here. So let's see. Yeah. So as you can actually see, even 128 kilobits, it's actually pretty high. Like the frequency range is pretty good. Obviously you can hear it, but it's not a big problem. So looks pretty good so far. Otherwise, it's actually you can see that it actually is identical with FLAC. So is it better than WAV? Of course not. It's inaccuracies of the measurement. So don't look at these small inaccuracies. Now let's go back to MP3 320 and let's take a specifically good look at the high range and compare it against FLAC, because that's where the problem is. And as you can see, there isn't. So here's my conclusion. Okay, so MP3 sounds pretty much the same to a human ear as WAV file. 16-bit WAV file sounds exactly the same as 24-bit WAV file because they cancel each other's out completely. FLAC, well, compared to any WAV file, because 16-bit and 24 are absolutely the same. So FLAC, it kind of starts to grow louder and louder. And definitely it is not the same, so it's a completely different quality, which you can also not pick up anyways, so that doesn't matter. So the human ear can barely hear over 18,000 hertz, let alone 20.7.8 thousand hertz, where the MP3 320 kilobits starts to fall off. There are absolutely no reasons to think that listening to music in WAV, more so FLAC formats, will give you any more pleasure, or even mixing songs in this format is going to make you somehow more professional. I have done multiple remixes of low quality MP3s, you would never tell. To finish this video off, here's the tip. Next time you only have the MP3 of your track and you lost the project and you lost the WAV file, and the label is asking for WAV for mastering, just get on your FL Studio or Ableton or whatever the fuck it is you're using and render it back to WAV. Who the fuck cares? Peace.